Hello folks, and I hope you're all keeping well. I changed the intro a little there as I seem to be shooting more hooded crows than anything this last while. But this is another delve into the dark realms of the hard drive. This is back when I still was using my old Theoben MFR. It must be 2015 I filmed this in. It's on a farm just down the road from me, and the farmer usually likes me to come down and take out as many hooded crows and magpies as I can before lambing time. I've used this spot a good few times over the years, and even though it's only about 80 yards away from the farmer's house, the birds seem to always decoy well to this field. As usual, I have a dead rabbit to use as bait, which I split open and set out on its back. I also have a dead magpie to use as a decoy, but decided not to set it out just yet. There's a handsome looking fella there. I know it's only 6 years ago, but where did all the hair go? Anyway, before I start crying in my coffee, let's do an equipment check. The hide I'm in is called the Bush from bushwear.com, and the net I have drooped over it I think was an old net from Decoy. The rifle of course was my old Theoben MFR in .22 caliber, running at about 30 foot-pounds, and yes, I do miss it now and again, but the crown I'm using now is just so much better and gives you so many different opportunities with slugs and other things. Let's not get into that. The Theoben was a good rifle in its day. The scope on top was a Meopta 4-16 by 44, and I'm using Bisley Magnums, which was the only pellet that my MFR really liked. Now, of course, this was all done before I started using scope cams, and was all filmed on the one camcorder which sat on a tripod beside me in the hide, which you had to take time lining up and zooming in on your target before you took your shot. But we'll edit all that out, just take it for granted, okay? That was a pain in the rear end. But I did manage to capture some nice footage with it over the years. Plus at this point I was experimenting with a small action camera down beside the bait, but sometimes it worked and sometimes it actually scared the birds off, so I don't use it anymore. Now, we already have a crow on the ground and interested, which was quickly joined by its mate, but they're sitting out there about 70 yards or more, as my bait is sitting about 40, and is a wee bit too far for my liking to take a shot. But I get myself ready for the shot, as I'm hoping that they'll come in closer to the bait. But for some reason they spook and fly off. Thankfully they don't go too far and start working their way back into the bait again from the bottom of the field. But you can see they are very nervous, constantly stopping and looking around them for some reason. One of the crows has finally reached the bait. It's just 40 yards away, and I should be taking the shot. But if you look in the background, The stupid sheep are in the way. It's not a safe shot, because I know that pellet will go clean through that hooded crow, and I don't want to hit one of the sheep. But it doesn't matter anyway, because the birds are up and away again. Then we find out why they're so nervous. Yep, there's a buzzard in the area. But the crows haven't given up on that rabbit yet, and have decided to mount a counter-attack. Charge! Which seems to work in pushing the buzzard off. I'm sure they feel quite chuffed after doing that, but they still seem quite nervous now that buzzard is floating around in the sky above them. But while all this excitement's happening, I'm still waiting for those two sheep to move off so I can get a safe shot. It's been a bit of a wait, but I've finally got my opportunity. It's well hit, but still manages to get about 10 yards down the field before running out of steam and dropping dead. Looks like we have another visitor, though this time it's a magpie. Now, magpies are on my hit list as well, but hooded crows are number one, so I decided to let this magpie alone and feed in peace. And this way it might act like a live decoy and hopefully encourage some of the hooded crows to come back again. And sure enough, almost as soon as the magpie leaves, a hooded crow drops in and lands beside the bird I shot earlier. It's not interested in the rabbit, but in the bird that's lying on the ground. It's about 50 yards away. You can hear that the pellet hit hard, but the bird still took off. But they didn't get far and dropped about 70 to 80 yards down the field. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of heart and lung shots. Sometimes they drop dead on the spot, and other times they get a short distance on an adrenaline charge before dropping dead. Almost spat my teeth out there. But anyway, after a while of nothing really happening, I decided to set the dead magpie I brought with me up as a decoy. But in hindsight, I should have went down and lifted that crow I'd shot that was lying 70-80 yards away and set it up as a decoy. But you'll see why in a minute. Yes, the crows came back, and they were peeved off. The only problem was, they landed down beside the dead bird, 70 to 80 yards down the field. which back in them days was a wee bit further than I really wanted to shoot with an air rifle. But thankfully my patience was rewarded, as the birds decided to drop in and give the other bird I'd shot at 50 yards a wee visit. I'm sure I hit that bird dead square in the centre of the chest, but it still managed to fly off. I watched it as best I could through the hide netting, but it seemed to disappear somewhere along the tree line at the bottom of the field. It's probably one of the reasons I shelved this project, because I was a wee bit annoyed that I had struck a bird and didn't manage to retrieve it. You can see that the commotion has attracted even more hooded crows, but they're well out of range from an air rifle, and quite safe from me, unless they land in my decoy spread, of course. Thankfully though, the bird that had been sitting beside the dead crow at 80 yards decided to fly over to the other crow that was at 50 yards, giving me a good opportunity for a shot. Hopefully I can drop this one a bit cleaner. The pellet struck him between the shoulder blades, and he's gone. It's a shame the other one didn't go down as well as that. Well, that last shot seemed to really put the wind up the crows, but Mr. Magpie returned, and since the crows didn't want to play ball anymore, the truce was over. He done a wee bit of a dance, but it didn't get him anywhere. Well, I think that's as much as I'm going to get this morning, so I called it quits. Well, let's see what we've done. This is the last bird I shot, Magpie, at about 30 yards. Pellet came through, he exited out the other side. He just didn't know he was dead until he done a wee ring of rosies. And set my decoy and my bait up here about 40 yards. It's just again a dead rabbit set out. And magpie on a little wire cradle. Couldn't find the wire cradle this morning. I don't know where I set it. Couldn't find it to put it out, but maybe it was a good thing. And then after I shot the hooded crow or two, I was able to find it laying in my bag. So I set up that dead magpie I brought as a decoy, and probably helped me get that last bird, that magpie. These two hooded crows, this first one now, that was the one I shot at 40 yards, the very first one, and he ran all the way down here at about 50 yards away. They're strong birds. I took him in the corner of the wing there. If I hadn't have broke the wing, he probably would have taken to the air. But he didn't get far before he ran out of steam. His mate landed beside him, and I was able to get him, but he flew up in the air about 20 to 30 feet and then ran out of steam and dropped dead over there about 70 yards away. And then, I can't remember if this was the last hooded crow. I think it was. There was a fourth one that landed just up there at 50 yards, and I hit him square on in the chest, and whether he made it to the tree line before he dropped or not, I don't know. I couldn't see out through the hide net and where he dropped. I had a look for him down in the trees there and I couldn't find him, so he's unaccounted for, unfortunately. But I don't think he would have lasted long with the shot to the chest the way it was. I'll have to have a look in the slow motion footage to see where the pellet strike was. But this was the last bird. He was sort of standing with his back to me, and I took him about there and threw into the heart and lungs. But he done a spiraling walk for about 5 yards and then dropped dead. So that's 3 confirmed hooded crows and 1 magpie. And 1 hooded crow, unfortunately, that isn't accounted for. But he seemed well enough struck. They're big strong birds and I usually like going for a headshot, but I thought I would take the 30 foot-pound Theoben MFR out today, and I have had success shooting them at distance, 40 yards or more, with the heart and lung shots, but they don't always drop to the shot, unfortunately. But we've 4 birds accounted for anyway, which is a good morning. Wee bit of a tidy up before we go, as the farmer, however much he doesn't like the hooded crows, doesn't want to see dead ones strewn all over his field. Well, there's something a wee bit different instead of the usual FX crown that I'm sure that the Theoben fans will love. And I'd say that 4th crow probably did drop inside the tree line and I just couldn't find it among the bracken. But anyway, look after yourselves people and take care, hey.